still in the Bahamas, in Paradise Island at the Shivananda Ashram in Bahamas. I've had a wonderful time here launching talks on You Are the Universe with my co-writer Menas Kafatos, Discovering Your Cosmic Self. And you can join the conversation right here, and we can continue this conversation at discoveringyourcosmicself.com. So today's question is very interesting. It's pretty long and passionate, and it comes from someone called Psyche, delicacy, and he starts his question by asking, how do we know that we will be annihilated for all eternity in death? I get that consciousness is lost at death. Consciousness is the result of particles in specific arrangements. But how do we know that we won't start existing again randomly out of nothing? And as I said, it's a pretty long question. You'll find it here on the discussion boards at discoveringyourself.com. And this is the website we've created for us to have conversations on topics such as this. So first of all, I want to tell Psyche Delicacy that he has bought into the prevailing materialistic physicalist paradigm, which basically says what he says. And what he's saying right now is more or less a paraphrasing of what Max Tegmark, who's a physicist and mathematician at MIT, says, that if particles arrange themselves in a certain way, and that certain way could be the brain, the human brain, then you get consciousness, and then you get experience, and then you know that you exist. So when death occurs, then because everything dissipates through entropy into fundamental particles randomly, then that is extinction and annihilation for all eternity. So if you buy into that construct, and it is a construct, it's a construct based on physical theories of the universe, then you will certainly interpret that as annihilation for eternity. So you didn't exist for all this time, and then you showed up, and for a blink of an eye you were here, and then you're gone again for eternity. That would be the correct interpretation if you believe that the fundamental nature of reality is physical. What we would say in philosophical terms, if you believe that the ontological primitive of all existence is matter. I'll tell you why this is not correct. First of all, nobody has ever shown the existence of a substance called matter. Matter is not a substance, matter is an activity. Matter is an activity of particles, and before those particles are measured, they exist as possibility waves in a non-local domain. A non-local domain means not in space-time. Upon measurement, the waves of possibility become particles in space-time. Now, many Eastern traditions and wisdom traditions and perennial philosophies do understand this on the basis of experience. So before I go any further, Psyche Delicacy, I'd like to ask you, who wants to know the answer to this question? Who or what is asking this question? Who or what thinks they are an arrangement of particles? I'd like to know if anyone here in this podcast who's listening to me right now, watching me, If anyone here thinks that they are an arrangement of particles, if you think you are an arrangement of particles, then please say yes. And if you don't think you're an arrangement of particles, then please say no. Okay? So how many people think they're an arrangement of particles? And so how many people think that that's just an interpretation of experience? Okay, I'd wait to hear from you, but in the meanwhile, let's continue. If you are an arrangement of particles, then is the arrangement of particles concerned about death? Why would physical objects, including the brain, ask these questions? Why would physical objects want to know what happens when they disappear? Why would physical objects or particles have anxiety? Why would physical particles or material objects fall in love or fall into distress, anger, stress, compassion, joy? So this is a kind of a conundrum, right? Particles are interpretations of mental and perceptual experiences. And all perceptual experiences are an excitation of consciousness itself. So the perceptual experiences include your body, they include the universe. And Aurora Carlson is saying particles don't wonder. She's absolutely right. Why would particles wonder, be astonished, have existential dilemmas, think of birth and death, wonder about God, wonder about the afterlife, be concerned about death? Why would material objects do that? Why would a physical object do that? So once you start to question and once you start to ask, who is it that asks? Who is it that wants to know? What is it that wants to know? Then you go back to yourself. And it is yourself that is vibrating as mind, body, and universe. And it vibrates in the form of qualia, qualities of its own self. Colors and textures and tastes and smells and forms and thoughts and emotions. Now, these qualia are qualities of a fundamental awareness, and qualia and awareness have no form. Okay, does the color red have a form? Does love have a form? Does empathy have a form? Does courage have a form? Does fear have a form? Does taste have a form? None of these have forms. So both both consciousness and its excitations that we call qualia are not material entities. And being not material entities, they exist not in space-time. They exist in what we call non-local domain, that is timeless, and that is spaceless. And yet, this is the miracle. By interpreting the experience of qualia, we create the concept of mind, body, and universe. So mind, body, and universe are concepts that are the interpretation of ever-changing qualia or excitations of awareness. That is who you are. You are that. All this is that. The body is that, the mind is that, and the universe is that. This is called veiled non-locality. The universe appears local, your body appears local, but in fact, both your body and the universe are local appearances of the non-local. And the appearances are just sensations, images, feelings, thoughts that are constantly arising and subsiding in your own being. If you understand this, then you will understand that the body is a process in awareness. And a particular lifetime is a continuum of processes that is like a qualia program. It's like a television program, or it's like a movie. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an ending, and then the qualia subside into formless being, and then they get excited again, and we call that the recycling of life. And you are that. You are the recycling of life. You are the incarnations of Vishnu. You have existed for eternity as a timeless being, and you have been what we would call the appearance of minerals, plants, animals, and humans. You are the incarnations of Vishnu. You are the evolution of consciousness that has assumed every form and every phenomena. So that's why Rumi says, I found myself sleeping in a mineral, dreaming as a plant, waking up as an animal, and becoming self-aware as a human. Okay, what is this? This is the progressive evolution of consciousness into form and phenomena that we experience as biological organisms, and the experiences of those biological organisms as the particular universe of that biological organism. So as long as you think of yourself as a person, then you are deluded, because there's no such thing. A person is a process in awareness. It's a qualia program. The universe is a process in consciousness. The mind is a process in consciousness. And being processes, they kind of have beginnings, middles, endings, and they are a constant arising and subsiding in timeless consciousness, or timeless being, or timeless awareness. So death is a concept. It's a human construct. Birth is a concept, is a human construct. Birth and death are constructs that come about through the interpretation of qualia programs as mind, body, universe. Therefore, awareness being fundamental and not in time is not subject to birth and death. Okay, so I'll end this program with a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which a couple of quotes. Prakritim swam vashtabhai vishwajami puna puna. Curving back within myself, I create myself again and again. I create myself as the mind, as the body, as the universe. The I is awareness, in which the mind, body, and universe are processes. There is no such thing as a person, because a person is an ever-changing qualia program as a process in awareness. The fundamental reality is being in awareness and not being in time. It is not subject to birth and death. Going back to the Bhagavad Gita, the real you is unborn and is not subject to death. Water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, fire cannot burn it, weapons cannot shatter it. It's unborn, not subject to death. Okay, so that's it. Now what I will do is I will take you to a little tour of where I am, and